you have to accept the narrative. And again, sometimes there's that fear of being rejected, that fear of being, thrown out into the wilderness, or these days, the fear of being cancelled, which apparently doesn't exist anymore. But sure, there you go. It did a few years ago. People were waving flags and cheering it on. Now it's not real. It doesn't exist. So I suppose there's another part of it as well, where our own histories start to get rewritten as well. It's mass
You know, that's
gaslighting.
that's so fascinating. You brought up the cancel culture piece. I wrote about this in the book, and it's like this with so many different things. It's like this with critical race theory
Mhm.
and like a lot of these different things. But the mentality or the argument that you'll hear time and over again is cancel culture doesn't exist. That's just a myth that conservatives made up because they don't like accountability or something like that.
Mhm.
And you say, okay, what about all these people who've been canceled? Well, cancel culture is rare, and it's only in extreme circumstances when people really need it. And then you kind of keep going along. It's like, well, cancel culture is good and you should support it, right? The goalposts are always
Yeah.
changing, and it's like trying to nail Jello to the wall.
It doesn't happen, but when it does, it's a good thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
My experience of cancel culture is back when I started my channel. I started during lockdown, and I think this would have been maybe 2021. I put out a video, and I was talking about the vindictive nature of narcissism. And someone had asked the question in the comments. Well, I used to assume it was a question. It was something along the lines of, right, so would you say what you've just described there as cancel culture? So I thought to myself, that's interesting. I'm going to have a look at this. So what I did was I was going on YouTube, I was going on Twitter as it was at the time, and I was looking at people who had claimed they'd been cancelled, they'd lost jobs, had been kicked off their courses, there'd been, lots of different things that happened to them. But not only was I looking at that, I was looking at there were people, influencers, whatever they call themselves, people with platforms, people with big audiences and so on. And some of them would be in front of the camera saying, I'm hereby calling for the cancellation of this person here because they put up a picture of something that I find deeply problematic and offensive, and they're clearly, the other terrible thing. They eat baby kittens and they throw stones at puppies. They're horrible, and I think we should call for their cancellation. Do you know? And they were doing it as if it was this moral kind of thing they were doing. And what I found curious was a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months later, those same people would have been on camera and they'd have been saying something like, I know I've got no right to ask for forgiveness, but I'm going to do it anyway. 5 or 6 years ago, I clicked like on the picture of a person who's recently been cancelled, and I don't want anyone to think that I'm like them, and I don't support that kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? They're afraid of being hung on their own gallows, really. You know.
You know, yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
I feel like there may be some people who are like, this guy's exaggerating. You're just trying to defend people who are saying legitimately, racist or homophobic things, blah, blah, blah. I documented a number of cases of just absurdity in cancel culture. There was a guy, I think his name's Connor Daly. He's a NASCAR driver in the United States. He lost major sponsorship deals because it was revealed that before he was even born, his father had used a racial slur. There's
Sins
instances
of
of
the father.
a grocery store owner's like 14-year-old daughter years before had said something, problematic on Twitter. There was a black Marxist professor named Adolph Reed Jr. He was scheduled to give a talk to the New York City branch of the Democratic Socialists of America. And he said he wanted to talk about economic socialism instead of just on race. And they said that was problematic, and they canceled a talk from a black Marxist professor, Democratic Socialists of America.
Mm.
There's so many instances of just absolute absurdity. It's this pious, holier than thou, looking to pick at any little thing we can, no matter how
Arrogance.
absurd. You blow it out of proportion. All of a sudden, this is a grand human rights issue, and to people who are not initiated into this cult, it looks absolutely absurd.
Yeah. But what I found was I had done that little piece, that little video about cancel culture based on what I was reading, what I was watching, and I gave my thoughts on it. Skip forward 2 years later, I now have a video about something that doesn't exist.
Mm.
It might, I suppose I might as well have made a video about Bigfoot or something. It's crazy, and it's this part of the gaslighting, if you will. And again, you get this regardless of the political leaning, is to rewrite your history. You don't remember it the way you think you do. It didn't happen the way you think it is. And what I'm telling you now, my opinion right now, is worth more than your what you've actually been through. Do you know what I mean? It's I know he gets quoted an awful lot, but it is very Orwellian.